Federal judge increases oversight of USPS to ensure ballots delivered on time. Two federal judges have increased their oversight of the U.S. Postal Service operations as Election Day approaches, with an order coming from one judge that Friday intended to improve ballot mail delivery in parts of Michigan and Wisconsin. Another federal judge is considering Saturday whether the U.S. Postal Service should take even more steps before Election Day so absentee ballots can be delivered quickly and before voting deadlines. The Postal Service delivery performance in the days before the presidential election has become a major point of contention, especially in the battleground states, where thousands of voters are mailing ballots instead of visiting polling places in person. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, and the Democratic state leaders and other voting access groups have pushed for judicial oversight of the agency's work. Stanley Bastian of Eastern District of Washington State ordered Friday night that the U.S. Postal Service report to him daily on the nightly sweeps for election mail in the Lakeland region of Wisconsin and in the Detroit area. He told the Postal Service they must make every effort to deliver any mailed-in ballot it finds in these facilities by 8 p.m. on Election Day. A group of Democratic-led states that had sued the USPS had notified the judge of consistently poor election mail performance data in certain regions. This comes as USPS faces intense scrutiny in multiple courts regarding its efficiency and problems delivering absentee ballots by Election Day. Top officials from the Postal Service are set to testify on Saturday afternoon in a separate court proceeding in Washington, D.C. In that case, federal judge Emmett Sullivan has held daily hearings on the Postal Service's performance, but put an court order the Postal Service's pledge to take extraordinary measures to collect some mail this Sunday that it normally would not, among other efforts before Election Day. But the judge questioned whether the expanded operations could happen even sooner on Saturday or if more could be done. Sullivan indicated he may put an additional order on the Postal Service so that American voters' ballots are processed and delivered in a timely manner. He said late Friday night at the end of a 3-hour hearing about the Postal Service's efforts to deliver ballots before Election Day. Since Monday, the USPS has handled more than 7.1 million ballots according to court documents, well over 1.5 million each day. Sullivan's extraordinary attention to the U.S. Postal Service, which has included daily hearings and requiring data reports about mail processing this way, comes 4 days before the election, in which millions of Americans plan to or already have voted by mail. Plans for the next days. At the time, Sullivan's questioning of a top USPS retail and delivery operations officials, Christine Seaver, who testified Friday, focused on whether the Postal Service had hired enough staff to handle the election mail onslaught. Suva didn't provide exact numbers, but said the Postal Service had boosted staffing and was seeing increases in letter mail because of the election, and in package because of more orders due to the pandemic. She said staffing increases are comparable to what they may be for the holiday season. On Friday, the USPS said it will collect mail on Sunday for some routes. There is typically no Sunday collection and conduct early collections on Monday and Tuesday, with ballot delivery to election office on the same day. Carrier will also check for outgoing mail at every residential mailbox, and the post offices will set up special lanes for people to drop off ballots. Sullivan put the force of the court behind the Postal Service's extraordinary measures plan on Friday afternoon, certifying them with a judicial order. In some key battleground states, the Republican Party has contested the validity of ballots that voters mail before Election Day but are delivered to election officials later, making the Postal Service efforts in the coming days key to getting votes in on time to be counted. The Postal Service has faced intense political criticism and severe lawsuits and court orders after it planned policy changes that could slow down the mail. Postmasters General Louis DeJoy also has weathered inquiries related to his close ties to President Donald Trump, whose attempt to sow distrust in mail-in voting, which Democratic voters are expected to use more widely than Republicans, according to polling. Sullivan, who's well known in Washington for his skepticism of the executive branch and experience handling politically sensitive cases, praised the Postal Service employees and its managers for their professionalism and hard work on Friday. He called it a Herculean effort to make the system work and offered a judicial shout-out to postal workers to mark his admiration. He also encouraged the public visiting post offices. If you see something, say something. He had noted how the public could help keep an eye on the Postal Service efficiency. The public can make things happen. I can make things happen too. The U.S. Postal Service announcement earlier Friday detailed several extraordinary measures it is implementing aimed at making sure mail-in ballots are delivered in time to get counted, as new count filings showed that the agency moved fewer ballots on time in critical battleground states on Thursday than it did the previous day, in addition to plans to process more mail on Sunday and collect ballots more promptly from voters in the coming days. The USPS said it will try to intercept any ballots with misprinted barcodes that determine where the mail is funneled through the USPS system. If these issues are caught early, it would speed up processing times, ballot processing slowing down in key states Meanwhile, court filings on Friday and Saturday show that the agency was slower to move ballots on time in key states than it had been previously and elsewhere. For the second day in a row, the Postal Service moved fewer ballots on time in critical battleground states than it did in the previous day, according to new court filings. The USPS blamed staffing shortages caused by COVID-19 and an increase in package volume for the delays. The slowdown in key states also dragged down national processing scores, which measure how many ballots were moved through the Postal Service on time. The number of completed ballots being returned to election officers dropped on Thursday and on Friday, as did the number of blank ballots still heading to voters. In court, lawyers for the Postal Service and CIVA have repeatedly emphasized that further orders for the court to increase service may be difficult to implement, and that all of the 440,000 postal employees know it's all hands on deck to deliver ballots on time to count on November 3rd. Because election day is only days away, these processing scores are taking on even greater importance. Dips in performance could mean ballots don't arrive at the election offices in time to get counted. In more than half of the states, mail ballots don't count if they arrive after the polls close. In all, USPS say it processed more than 1.2 million ballots on Friday. But the USPS says that on a national level, they moved fewer ballots on time on Friday than on Thursday. The score dropping from 95% to 93%. On Wednesday, USPS reported they moved 97% of ballots on time. The numbers in some of the most critical battleground states did not improve substantially or dropped even lower. The Colorado and Wyoming district sank to the lowest in the nation, moving only 61% of ballots on time Friday. Even more concerning, only 80% of Colorado and Wyoming ballots arrived 3 days after they were supposed to. Nearly all Colorado vote by mail because the state sends every voter their ballot through the mail. Only 76% of the ballots processed by USPS in northern New England, which includes New Hampshire and Maine, were done so on time. Central Pennsylvania and the Detroit area, they have been plagued by low scores for days, remained well below the national average despite slight improvements. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio, parts of Wisconsin, and North California too were below the national average. Viral videos of Florida ballots, one apparent issue, bubbled up on social media on Friday after a series of tweets about a mail backlog by Democrat state lawmakers in Florida has led to a search for ballots by postal inspectors and call for the Miami-Dade state attorney for an area-wide audit of all postal distribution centers. Sullivan in Washington, D.C., took interest in this situation after receiving calls to his office and seeing a video on Twitter of mail stacked up On Saturday morning, lawyer representing USPS told the judge inspectors found 7 ballots after investigating reports of delayed mail at the Princeton Post Office in Homestead, Florida. Their investigation also initially turned up 48 pieces of election mail, and the lawyer said in court that an effort is underway to make sure the ballots get delivered. 4 of the ballots that were found were heading to local residents and were delivered yesterday, the lawyer said. 3 of the ballots were out-of-date ballots, and the USPS says they were sent through the express mail system, guaranteed by USPS to arrive in 1 to 2 days. It's unclear whether any of these ballots were found in the backlog or if they were found in the collected mail. The USPS defines election mail as any items mailed to or from authorized election of officials that enables citizens to participate in the voting process, including ballots, voter registration cards, absentee voting application, and polling place notification. The Inspector General's office says it has briefed the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida of its initial findings. The Postal Service also confirmed their investigation is still ongoing and that they had moved employees and cargo facilities to that area. The issue at the post office in Florida came to light when Kearney McHugh, the minority leader of the Florida state legislature, posted unsourced, undated video on his Twitter feed showing stacks of bins filled with mail. McHugh wrote he obtained the video from a source and told CNN it was recorded by a Postal Service employee last Saturday. Sub-$2 gas coming to a gas station near you. More than half of the 140,000 gas stations in the U.S. now are selling gas for just under $2 a gallon, and gas that's cheap will soon be coming to many consumers in the rest of the nation. With oil prices dropping due to concerns about the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic eating deeply into demand, gas prices are now down to levels nationwide not seen in more than 4 months, when the country was coming out of lockdowns and the economy was just restarting. The last time that more than half the states sold regular gas for less than $2 a gallon was June 18th. It is all above the demand, said Tom Closer, chief oil analyst with the Oil Price Information Service, which tracked the prices for AAA and confirms the number of stations that are now below $2. With millions of people out of work and millions more working from home and no longer commuting, gasoline consumption is well below year-ago levels. It's now in the 85% to 89% range, an improvement over the 50% consumption in April during widespread stay-at-home orders. The average gasoline price nationwide currently stands at $2.14 according to AAA, but the level overstates how expensive gasoline actually is due to inflated prices at the station in high-cost states along the West Coast. Gas cost $3.18 on average in California and $2.726 in Washington state. The median price, which represents the point at which half the nation's stations sell for more and half sell for less, edged down 2 cents to $1.99 as of Saturday. In 20 states, mostly in the center of the country and the southeast, a majority of stations are below $2, and in none of them, Alabama, Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, South California, Tennessee, and Texas, at least 90% of stations are below that price. Even in most states where sub-$2 gas is not the norm, it can be found at a significant percentage of stations. I think most people will soon be paying between $1.75 and $2 a gallon. About 75% of stations nationwide will probably be below $2. Closer said, every state except Alaska, California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Washington already had at least the occasional gasoline prices below $2 a gallon. The drop in gas prices is aided by seasonal factors as gasoline prices typically fall in autumn. The summer driving season is well behind us. Cutting consumption and the cleaner, more expensive blend of gasoline required during the summer to fight smog is no longer in use. Something as predictable as the end of daylight saving time this weekend also cuts into driving and consumption, as many drivers prefer not to drive at night, but the combination of low demand and low oil prices is causing prices to fall even further this year. A year ago, the national average stood nearly 50 cents a gallon higher at $2.61. And the other factors that will affect gasoline demand and prices remain at play. This includes social changes in behavior due to the pandemic, such as people not getting together with family for the holidays, or doing more holiday shopping online than at malls, Closer said. The worst months for consumption every year are January and February, he said, but December could be a bad month too. KLM $3.4 billion payout in crisis as unions refuse pay cut plan. The Dutch government on Saturday suspended plans to help beleaguered national carrier KLM with a multi-billion euro payout package after the union declined to sign a deal involving a 5-year pay cut plan. The moves put the future of the Dutch arm of Air France, KLM, into jeopardy, with KLM saying it would not remain afloat without a massive government infusion to save the world's oldest airline, now hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic. The planned state aid is not going through. It's disappointing, but it's a case, France Minister Wauquiez Hoekstra told reporters after talks with KLM. It's really important now that everybody took their responsibility and realized that KLM is in an existential crisis, the minister said. The Dutch cabinet's decision follows a day of intensive talk between KLM and its unions to try and reach a accord over the buyout deal, which Hikastra said would only go through if the airline adhered to a number of tough cost-cutting measures. The minister gave KLM and the unions representing pilots, cabin, and ground crew until 12 o'clock p.m., 11 p.m. GMT on Saturday to sign the agreement to unlock the second tranche of the 3.4 billion euro injection. Deal is a deal. It's dead. Deal is a deal. While talks are still ongoing with several unions, the Dutch pilot union VNV have refused to sign what's termed a last-minute change to conditions for the deal. The bitter fold centered around a clause in the agreement which asks the troubled airline staff to take salary cuts for the next 5 years. KLM this week presented the finance ministry with the austerity plan, which demands a 15% cut in cost and will see 5,000 jobs being shed as a result of the global impact of the coronavirus pandemic on air travel. It also included an agreement from union to cut pilots' salaries until March 2022 and ground and cabin crew salaries until the start of 2023. But Hikastra on Friday turned down the plan, insisting on salary cuts to run concurrently with the government's 5-year buyout package. We have not signed, a VNV representative told AFP shortly after the deadline passed. We had an agreement in place with KLM on October 1st, and now the government are going back on it, said the representative who declined to be named. We do not understand why KLM and the cabinet require extra commitment at the last minute, FNV said in a statement to AFP, but it added, as FNV will never endanger the future of KLM. Bottom of the barrel, some 6,000 pilots within the airline are said to be the hardest hit by the austerity plan, with salary cuts of up to 20%, Dutch news reports said. Other unions, however, have signed the deal, including cabin crew union and the aerospace technicians union, saying keeping KLM flying was the first priority. We are staring at the bottom of the barrel, Dutch Union of Aerospace Technicians, NVLT chairman Robert Swakhuizen told the RTL Near News private broadcaster. Squabbling any longer jeopardized state aid, it said. KLM in a statement said the airline was in its worst crisis in its 101 years of existence. It is all the more regrettable that it has not been possible today to get all the unions to sign the commitment clause by the end of October, KLM chief executive Peter Elbers said. This was the final step required for approval from the cabinet. Without this loan, KLM will not get through this difficult time, Elbers said, adding this makes this impasse extremely worrying. Air France KLM posted a net loss of 1.7 billion euros, $1.9 billion for the third quarter, compared with a €363 million profit over the same time last year. The Leeds bakery that gave away 200 meals to families struggling to feed children. Taking over a successful family business right before a pandemic would be enough to make anybody anxious, but Somerset Atkin is somehow unflappable. In Blamley, a suburb of Leeds, the 28-year-old runs Carol's Confectioners, a bakery and sandwich shop that specializes in jewelry spread. It's one of the many cafes, pubs, and restaurants that offered free meals to children during the half-term holidays. We watched it on the news, and there was just absolutely no way in the position we're in to not make a sandwich for a child, Atkins said. Where not every business that made this offer has had a large take-up. Carol's handed out about 200 lunches in 5 days. Atkins said that's a credit to the girls in here, because they are friendly faces in Bramley. The staff in the cafe have connections at 3 local primary schools and have been extremely persistent in getting the message out. That's the only reason I can see that it worked, Atkins added. Carol's Confectioners is bright and cheery, with no room for seats inside. Instead, customers take their sandwiches, cakes, and pastries to their cars or down the street to their workplaces, to the uninitialed. There appears to be no distinction between these regular customers and those collecting a free meal. The staff have the discretion of secret agents, exchanging briefcases as they hand over pre-arranged free meals unobtrusively in plain sight. A woman appears in the doorways, and before she can open her mouth, Atkins recognized her 1 minute lovely. Nipping into the back of the shop, she brings out 2 prepared brown paper bags, each containing sandwich, apple, soft drink, crisps, and snacks, and hands them over with a smile. There you go, chick. They've all got different circumstances, and there have been some really sad stories, Atkins said. One mother was collecting free meals for her children after struggling to buy food due to rent arrears. The young woman, who has 2 children aged 5 and 7, split from their father at the start of the year and does not have the support of family nearby. She said, "It's just really stressful. I've not been in this situation before, and I don't think people understand what it's like. There are some days when even if you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't be able to find a Tina. I'm still getting the hang of trying to budget. You can't afford to make a single mistake. I wouldn't wish it to anyone." The woman, who was told about the Carol's by another parent at school, described the free meals as a weight off her mind. "I can't get over how kind people are," she said. Brimley Ward, has the second highest rates of child poverty in the city. Dozens of local residents and businesses have come into the cafe to donate money, and though she has not yet added up, Atkins thinks donations might have exceeded the cost of making the meals. Related free school meals campaign takes off in England in pictures. If there is money left over, Atkins will wait to hear what the government plans to do over the Christmas holidays and anticipates offering the meals again. Otherwise, the cash will go to one of the blameless many community projects. Atkins is modest about her effort, though it's clear she knows that Carol has made a difference. Let's just say I slept really well last night, she said. Thanks for watching.